145. Let's get to If, or Imaginary Friends, which is written and directed by John Krasinski, and you can get it on digital purchase and rental now. It stars Kaylee Fleming, Ryan Reynolds, John Krasinski, Phoebe Waller-Bridge, Fiona Shaw, Steve Carell, Louis Gossett Jr., and a few others. And the synopsis is: a young girl who goes through a difficult experience begins to see everyone's imaginary friends who have been left behind as their real life friends have grown up. So I didn't realize this one, I think, was even coming out until maybe a few months ago. And I know that A Quiet Place Day One had been directed by somebody else. I think that was because John Krasinski had wanted to do this movie in one way or the other. I don't know all the details there, but I think that was the case because he did write this. And I was curious about it. I really, really like A Quiet Place 1 and 2. I liked some of Krasinski's other movies that he had directed in the past, but Quiet Place was definitely his rise to fame in that way. My main detractor with this movie was Ryan Reynolds. I'm just so tired of the Ryan Reynolds shtick, as I've talked about a lot on the show over the years, but especially as of late. I still do like this kind of movie, though. The kind of family-friendly, inventive, magical realism kind of story. It has a mix between, I don't know, Monsters, Inc. and Alice in Wonderland, something like that. And when I finally got around to seeing it, I thought it was okay at best. It had some moments for sure, and I think it ended on a pretty decent note. I thought the third act was probably the best part of the whole movie, which is rare. And I can appreciate, even though this movie is definitely not a masterpiece, not best of the year at all, I can appreciate that this is, to a certain extent, an original story. Krasinski wrote it. It's not based on some huge IP. It's not part of a cinematic universe. Nothing like that. It's not based on a novel. Obviously, it's drawing from a lot of things, but it is just an original script. That's pretty cool, and you don't really get that very often. And I know financially this movie has not done very well, which that's not a surprise considering what I was just saying, and that is too bad. I wish it had, even though it's not a great movie. I wish it had done well so we could open up the door for more original movies. All the creature designs or monster designs, I think all that is, for the most part, it's all right. I think Steve Carell's big purple fluffy character, I like that design. I like the look of Phoebe Waller-Bridge's character, the doll-like character. And I thought that the main actress was very, very good throughout the whole thing. And John Krasinski, who plays this father who's getting an operation, and he's super, super childlike and optimistic, and it's almost tiresomely so for the characters, but I think he pulled that off pretty well. And I like John Krasinski in general as an actor, not just a director. But some of the main flaws, I don't want to sound too mean because there's nothing offensively wrong with it, but I think one of the main flaws is the whole world itself feels a little half-baked, if that makes sense. There's a lot of characters, a lot of cool creature designs and monster designs thrown in that you see kind of in passing, a little bits of the world, of the magical world, and all that's interesting, but I saw it about a week ago and I feel like it's mostly already out of my brain. It feels very almost like a fluff piece at times where you never really get much of a chance to get your claws into any of it or to really take your time and think about what they're saying. It's very these cute, silly dance numbers and action sequences where they're running through these different colorful, weird locations and saying hi to these different creatures. And it's all fun, but by the time that we got to the third act, I just felt like I had forgotten most of what I had just seen. And again, the third act with those emotional beats, it actually does hit fairly well, more than I thought it would. I think everything with, not to spoil it because it's a new movie, everything with the imaginary friends and their creators, let's call them, their friends, they're in the real world, I think all that was actually very good. And I really appreciated how they did that. And I thought those performances and the writing were all strong. So I had no issues with that whatsoever. But it takes a while to get going, and you never really learn that much about these characters. And Ryan Reynolds, I don't want to rag on the guy too much because nothing against him as a person. He seems like a good guy, and he's clearly very, very successful in all that he's doing. So kudos to him. But as I've talked about with some of his other films, and I don't want to beat a dead horse here in case you've listened to those other reviews, but just in case, to me, Ryan Reynolds' career was both saved and destroyed by Deadpool. I think he's good as Deadpool. No problem with him as Deadpool. I think he just inhabits that character very well, and his pre-existing personality just works for that character. And he has, to me, a very good grasp as to why that character is funny and what crazy things they can do with each movie and jokes and all that. That he just has a good handle on that for sure. But since the first one, it feels like now every character he plays, and even when he appears in person, he has to be Deadpool. And before that, I feel like there was more variety in his performances where I saw many different sides to him. And he is being in different kinds of movies besides Deadpool, but I feel like he now is so clearly successful as Deadpool. He doesn't want to, or maybe the studio, his producers, his agent, doesn't want him to do anything else but that, to show off that super quippy, snarky kind of lead man. And it really is tiresome. I think there is no real, I mean, he has little emotional moments every so often in this or in other things that are okay. But I feel like since the first Deadpool, there have been almost no surprises in his performances. It doesn't matter the genre. It just feels like Deadpool is his winner. So I'm going to put all my energy into that. And then I'm going to get, $20 million payouts for my other movies. And so I can finance my other businesses and stuff, which, hey, whatever. You're doing something right, clearly. But performance-wise, as an audience member, I find him to be so boring. 99% of the time. I feel like whenever I go see a Ryan Reynolds movie, I'm getting exactly what I'm expecting. And I'm pretty much always right. And, there are worse actors out there. There are worse defenses to have. So I'm not trying to be too mean to the guy. But I feel like I really used to enjoy, to a certain extent, Ryan Reynolds and his variety, some of his styles of performances. But now it feels like there's no effort. There's just no change. There's no ups and downs. It's just, I'm Deadpool. So, not a fan of him. I know he helped Krasinski develop this movie. So, clearly he was going to have some sort of play in the movie itself, which is, I get it. But would have much rather spent this movie with someone else. Sorry. Maybe I'm in the minority there. I don't know. But besides that, all the voice performances, Phoebe Waller-Bridge, I love. Steve Carell, a legend. Love him. I think everybody's solid. So, no real issues. The score by Michael Giacchino, very solid. I'm a little tired, as I said in my Letterboxd review, a little tired of seeing his name pop up so much with big movies, but for the most part, I think he does add quite a bit of variety and emotion, no matter what he's doing, no matter if it's a superhero film or whatever it might be. So I think it's a good score. And John Krasinski does have a good eye. To me, I think some shots, especially the lighting, look really, really good. The silhouettes, the colors mixed with the very natural wooden, golden look to this movie overall color palette. I think it looks quite good, and it's surprisingly well shot for a film like this when it doesn't really need to be, because you already have such big, showy effects. So you could do a whole lot worse. It's definitely not worst of the year, but it's definitely not best of the year, like I said. Definitely one of Krasinski's lesser directed efforts. I wish he would just go back and do A Quiet Place Part 3, which I am pretty sure he's doing, but I wish he would go and get on that, because that seemed to be his bread and butter. So if you need a warm, inviting, feel-good kind of movie, this is a good one to try out. So that one is a heavy 3 out of 5.